Morning, Arno.
Oh, I was muted. Good morning.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Arnav, can you say yes again or say
Yes.
something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is better. This volume
Okay.
is better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you, Ocean?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Test.
that's good. That's good. All right. So I believe we're going to be a little delayed. So either you can go back to bed or have coffee. So
All right.
how do we do it? You'll be online, right? So we'll just ping you as soon as people come in. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to show your check your presentation also once?
Yeah, I can try to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it working?
Just yeah, it's cutting. Let's see. There's some issue.
Is it the title that's being cut?
Part of the whole slide that we got.
Okay.
One. Okay, now it's better. Okay, fine, and we can see you also. All right.
All right. And let me just try the video. If it, I mean, I've shared the sound, so there should
Yeah,
not be a
so, yeah,
problem.
let's
But
check
just to
that
make
too.
sure.
Yeah.
That works. Well, is that actually? Could you have videos on Mentimeter? Maybe not. Maybe I need to share differently.
Video कैसे check करें?
I should know this.
No.
But
Did you play it?
Well, I don't think I have the option to play it, so maybe that's not allowed in Mentimeter.
No, there's no.
But I could, I guess, show it from, yeah, from another screen. I could have the YouTube video ready.
Okay.
All right, but the presentation works.
Not supposed to. That is it. Okay. 1 minute. Arnav, are you sharing that video?
Yeah, I can do that. I
let's
looked
check
for it
the
on
sound
YouTube.
and everything once, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Today, we are using 1.6 Earths to give us what we need to live.
It's fine. You can put it off. Yeah.
It is fine. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it's fine. And you can see this whole audience.
Not really, no.
What
We
are
just
you
see
able to see?
the stage, or yeah, the panel where there's like the table and
Okay. तो आपने कैमरा ऐसे रखा है that वो लोग इसको देख रहे हैं. हाँ, आप घुमाओगे. नहीं, मैं उनको घुमा रही हूँ. Okay. So what they'll do is, Arnav and Otin, so basically they'll keep moving the camera. Say somebody in the audience is going to speak, they'll move the camera to that person. So then you can see that person. Okay.
okay.
All right. Okay. So it looks like it'll take a little more time. So we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, sure. Any estimate?
No estimate.
No estimate. Okay.
No. And I would say another 15, 20 minutes for sure. Looks
Okay.
like. But just be available, please. Don't disappear.
Be here.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi, Radhika. Okay, but okay. Arnav,
Yeah,
are you
Pramod?
there? You can hear me, right? Now, earlier we were not able to hear you.
Okay, now you can hear us?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Oops. So can you ask Arnav and Osim to please come online, share the slides?
I see Arnav and Oisin online.
Okay, good. Great. Let's begin. Okay, so are they coming in or out? Okay, please come in. Okay, I'll request. Hello. Okay, I'll request the audience to please settle down and thank you for joining us. We can just shut the doors. All right. We are already late by 30 minutes. It's 1. Are you wanting to run? Okay, okay. Nobody's running, great. Okay. Okay, so we are already 30 minutes late. Our panelists are in Europe and have been up with cups of coffee waiting for us to begin. Thank you for joining us. And I'm Radhika. I'm an educationist and I have no role to play, but I'm tying it all up together. So I'm a sutradhar for your day. Because our colleagues are all online and there. As you know, this session is education for ecosystem restoration. And it's a very, very important topic. We've always been talking about environment education. Knowing about things is great, but putting it into action is more important. And so the session is going to, Arnav, can I have the first slide? So the session is extremely simple. We're going to give you a little, we're going to make you aware of, the UN decade on ecosystem restoration, because many people don't even know about it. What is the ecosystem restoration education challenge? So there is a challenge out there, and what is it? And the most important thing we felt was to show you a case study, a successful case study. Okay. So it's to showcase a successful study. And we have partners on board from Namami Gange, which is a very, very successful and well-known, a flagship program, which is also recognized by the UN. So we have the team from there, Dr. Harcharan Singh and Sunil Kumarji, who are going to share what they did, what challenges they had, and what are they doing now. So I think so. And then, of course, we'll have a little quiz and a little questions for you to understand how we can actually take this to schools and what we can do. So over to you, Osin, and Dr. Harcharan Singh and Sunil Kumarji, please come sit on the dais. And Arnav,
Yes.
you can introduce yourself and then begin. Yes?
Yes. Thank you, Radhika. I hope you can hear me well.
Little louder.
Little louder. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, good. So hello everyone. My name is Arnau. I work at the Foundation for Environmental Education as a coordinator and project manager. And today I'll be going through, telling you a little bit about the UN Decade, in case you are not so familiar with it. The UN Decade is building a global movement to prevent, hold, and reverse the degradation of ecosystems worldwide, and also raise awareness about the importance of successful ecosystem restoration. And it's looking at very different types of ecosystems, going from forests to oceans and coasts, urban areas, freshwater ecosystems, such as the case study you'll be able to learn more about later today, peatlands, farmlands, mountains, as well as grasslands and savannas. So it's looking at very different types of ecosystems. And in case you are not so familiar with what ecosystem restoration is, there's a little video. I was hoping it would play, but maybe technology will fail me here. Let's see. All right, I have a backup plan in case it didn't work. So I'll just reshare my screen to the video, and hopefully that's. I'm just going with the video because I think we'll explain it better than I can. So just bear with me for a sec. Here it comes.
Today, we are using 1.6 Earths to give us what we need to live, eat, and grow our economies. We are plundering and polluting nature's resources, treating it as a dumping ground for plastic and waste. If we don't act now, we could lose 1 million species in the next few decades. Like we would lose our coral reefs, which will impact fish first, then fishers, then entire economies. But it doesn't have to be this way. What if I told you there's a solution? It's called ecosystem restoration. Healthy ecosystems regulate our drinking water and carbon, which are the backbone of life on Earth. All living things need carbon. Trees store carbon, so does soil, and seagrass in the ocean. Even the human body is 18% carbon. But as ecosystems become weak, they release carbon instead of storing it. Look at the soil below your feet. Healthy soil grows 95% of our food. But pollution, climate change, and pesticides are making soil less productive. And when yields go down, instead of restoring, we expand. Till more land, turning wild places into farmland, and pollute healthy soil. When we lose forests, wildlife is forced to come closer to humans, bringing what's called zoonotic disease, a virus that is passed between animals and humans, like bird flu, Ebola, and COVID-19. But there are some actions we can take today. Growing trees in cities would help to cut pollution dramatically. They would filter and cool the air, improving our health and reducing global warming. But trees can do more. Look at mangroves, for example. For each dollar we spend on restoring mangroves, we would earn $4 as they protect our coastlines from storms and floods. Building economies around nature will create jobs for the future, jobs that you could have. Restoring ecosystems will not be simple, and it will not be easy. But together, we can do it. We are calling entrepreneurs, thinkers, leaders in your family, school, and workplace to get involved. Can you do your part too? Reimagine how and what you consume. Recreate your relationship with the planet. Join Generation Restoration. Be a part of the solution.
All right. I hope that was somehow inspiring. I'm going to go back to the slides in a second. If Mentimeter allows me to go back, just give me a second, please. There we go. Oh, here we are again. So about the UN Decade, which you have just heard about, this is an initiative that it's led by 2 UN agencies, the United Nations Environment Program and the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and is also supported by an extensive network of partners. And the decade runs through 2021 through 2030, which is also the deadline for the Sustainable Development Goals. And as Radhika mentioned, there's been named the first World Restoration Flagships this year, which is a group of like 10 initiatives of restoration of ecosystem restoration happening globally, which somehow they intend to exemplify some of the most until now successful large-scale and long-term ecosystem restoration examples happening. And if you look at number 6, we have the Namami Kanke initiative, which you'll hear from today within the case study. The UN Decade has an action plan, which basically, again, wants to look and focus on all regions of the world and its diverse ecosystems. And if you look at, there's 12 thematic areas. Number 6 is education. And within education, we have the Ecosystem Restoration Education Challenge, which Ozin will present you in a couple of minutes. And in case you are not so familiar with ecosystem restoration education and you might want to learn more about it, look into it, here I collected a few resources and links that hopefully can help you. There's an ecosystem restoration playbook put together by the UN Decade, which is basically a guide on how to get started with ecosystem restoration. And it covers the 8 ecosystems that I presented in my slides. There's at FEE, the Foundation for Environmental Education, we have also been collecting stories from our members on how they are contributing to the UN Decade. So you can read about these stories on our website. There's also a link. And if you work with students and you would like to maybe introduce this topic and you are not so sure how, the UN Decade also put up an online game, which is called Play to Fight the Nature Crisis, which basically conducts players through different kinds of ecosystems. And I think it's a very fun and way to maybe get introduced to the subject. And finally, at the UN Decade website, there's also a publication section where you can find fact sheets, guidelines, articles, reports, and you can filter them by ecosystem type and year of publication. So it's very handy if you're looking for something specific. And yeah, and with this, I would like to pass it on to Ozin.
Great, thanks a lot, Arno. So hopefully, yes.
Ozin, before you begin, can I just ask the audience if they have any questions or any doubts to Arno? Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody, any questions to Arno? All clear? Okay, great. Okay, please begin.
Yes, and Ozin just brought to my attention that I'm not displaying the PowerPoint in full presentation mode. So let me try to fix that before he starts.
And yeah, so maybe while you're bringing that up, Arno, it's really good to be here. And it's morning in Europe, but I believe it's afternoon with yourselves. And good evening to all of you. So yeah, my name is Oisín Gill, and I'm a consultant working within the Education for Sustainable Development section within UNESCO. And I'm going to be presenting on our educational challenge, but within the UN decade, there are several educational challenges. And for UNESCO, this is one of the challenges that we're part of. There's also another one. But this challenge is being co-led by FEE, the Foundation for Environmental Education, and NAAE, so National American Association for Environmental Education, and ourselves in UNESCO. So at this very week, it's quite a pivotal moment in our history. So as I'm sure many of you are aware, the UN General Assembly is happening in New York. And this week, yesterday and the day before, the SDG Summit took place. And it marks the beginning of a new phase for the Sustainable Development Goals, for accelerated action towards the goals, with high-level political guidance on transformative actions leading up to 2030. So I know the outlook and the reports so far have not been good. So that's why we need this transformative accelerated action. At the same time, as brought to light, there was a new report from the Stockholm Resilience Center that mapped out all 9 boundary processes that define a safe operating space for humanity. Within some of the highlights within that report state that as many of us are aware, the human activity affects the Earth's climate and ecosystems more than ever, which risks the stability of the entire planet. And within those 9 planetary boundaries, 6 of them have now been pushed past the limit, past their boundaries, including biosphere integrity, so that is genetic biodiversity and functional biodiversity, so climate change as well, and land use. So these are all things that we're looking at when we're talking about ecosystem restoration. And now more than ever, we need consolidated action. So if you can move to the next slide, please, Arno. So that's where we're coming in with this educational challenge. And this challenge aims to create a dynamic framework as adaptable in multiple contexts and settings, demonstrating ways to embed ecosystem restoration education in diverse lifelong education contexts. And as stated by UN Decade partners, now we must educate the next generation of citizens to be aware of the value of nature and to train a generation of professionals who can scale up restoration efforts. So this challenge aims to embed ecosystem restoration into educational systems worldwide. And as mentioned by Radhika at the beginning, it's building ecosystem restoration education is building upon long-standing work on environmental education and education for sustainable development, and incorporating healing and restoration into our educational programs and activities. And through this decade, the decade provides a platform and the voice to raise these efforts globally. So building on these existing practices and leveraging our work and through our established networks within the 3 leading organizations and all of the organizations that are here present today, we aim to utilize this power to deliver our vision of incorporating ecosystem restoration globally, education. So next slide, please, Arno. So ecosystem restoration itself is defined by the Society for Ecological Restoration as the process of assisting the recovery of an ecosystem that has been degraded, damaged, or destroyed. It is an amalgamation of ecological restoration and outdoor education. Outdoor education being an educational approach that is environmentally focused, characterized by learning that is in an outdoor setting with an action-centered thematic focus. So exactly as you mentioned as well, Radhika, at the very beginning, it's that learning by doing approach and being able to put into practice what we learn through theory. Can then be so ecosystem restoration education focuses on allowing students to actively participate in the alteration and restoration of ecosystems. So learning through their sensory experiences in addition to what will be taught through theoretical approaches. So it is vital to ensuring the future generations benefit from greater understanding of nature and appreciation of its value. So next slide, please, Arno. So coming to our challenge then. So we've got visions and goals that are sort of going to drive the direction, the pathway for the challenge. And these are sharing effective practices. So inspiring ecosystem restoration around the world by sharing what is already being done through conservation and then restoration professionals, and encouraging and strengthening effective practices, including indigenous ones. So building on the local work. So something that has to be incorporated throughout the educational challenges, the local focus, and how we can adapt the focus of the challenge through different contexts. And then building capacity and leadership. So providing professional development opportunities for educators, providing educators with the resources to teach and to build the capacity of young people to deliver ecosystem restoration projects. And then to strengthen global networks. So within our 3 networks, through FEE, through NAAE and UNESCO, building on the networks that we've already developed, and then strengthening those to incorporate ecosystem restoration education. And then finally, sort of integrating ecosystem restoration into conservation projects. And then this sort of cycle of sharing practices, building capacity, and then incorporating the work from young people and educators into restoration education, ecosystem restoration education projects. So the audience for this challenge with educators in both formal and non-formal settings, and policymakers as well, and then conservation restoration professionals. So if you could move to the next slide, please, Arno. So for this, we've got several different KPIs. So key performance indicators of how we'll monitor and the progress of our challenge. So including the stakeholders and consortium partners that are mobilized. So the resources that are developed, so building the capacity of educators and young people through developing resources, and then countries adopting ecosystem restoration education in national education context. This is not always something very easy to do, but it's something that we hope throughout the decade will become apparent. And then formal, non-formal education demonstration sites and pilot projects. So key outputs then would be sort of the status report on ecosystem restoration education in lifelong learning globally. So through formal, non-formal education and seeing where we stand with ERE. And then a co-developed curricular framework, methodologies and advocacy tools to embed ERE in national and regional educational strategies. So next slide, please. So then some of the expected outcomes upon this, so increased awareness of the decade on ecosystem restoration amongst environmental education NGOs, as we mentioned, conservation, restoration projects, professionals, and then their audience, their beneficiaries. So youth, young people, then also through lifelong learning as well. So at all stages of learning. Then inclusion of ERE with environmental education or ESD frameworks, and then the Kunming Montreal Biodiversity Framework. And then synergies with ESD for 2030 framework and a roadmap, and then the Greening Education Partnership. So these networks that UNESCO have built up along with their global partners, including FEE and NAAE, and strengthening those networks to be able to implement ecosystem restoration education. And then the resources that we mentioned to help schools, NGOs, municipalities, governments to support the goals of the decade, and particularly Embed. So just the last slide, Arno, thank you very much. So the timeline for this challenge, so starting this year, we aim to leverage the networks from each of the lead organizations and then bring together an international advisory board. Then already beginning this year through a preliminary mapping that is underway, and we aim to build upon this to formulate a comprehensive map of environmental restoration education initiatives. This will also require help from many other organizations, including those that are here, and the work that is currently being done, and then leveraging the UN decade, the partners of the UN decade, to be able to develop this further to provide a comprehensive mapping of existing initiatives. Then moving forward, that status report on ecosystem restoration education, and then through to pilots, demonstration sites to show the work that is being done, and then to be able to reconfigure these projects, to be able to provide a strong final report embedding ecosystem restoration education. So I think that's it from my presentation, but looking forward to any discussions, any questions afterwards, and hearing obviously a little bit more from Namami Gangi, from somebody that's actually doing work at the minute. So thanks a lot, and look forward to discussion.
We have a question for you, just.
Please.
Thank you, Abhi. That's Bharucha. This has been very fascinating because it's something I've been interested in for many, many years, been involved with some of them. My question is, what is the sort of data that you need to begin an eco-restoration project? And the other is, once you have done your eco-restoration, you've probably covered a couple of years to do that. What are the indicators that you got it right?
Thanks. Yeah, it's a good question. So in terms of the data that we'll be looking at first now, so it's coming at it from sort of a rudimentary level within our educational challenge. So what we're looking for now in terms of the mapping that we're doing is, okay, what are the projects that are underway that are focusing on ecosystem restoration education? So what is happening in ecosystem restoration and those projects? Well, mapping, but then also, is there anybody implementing educational projects? And then looking at what is the understanding of educators, both formal and non-formal, in terms of ecosystem restoration. How is that incorporated into their educational projects at the minute, if at all? So it's quite a basic understanding that we're looking at to be able to develop this this current mapping of what resources are available in terms of the educational sphere for ecosystem restoration. What is the understanding of educators, both formal and non-formal, and then what can we do to be able to integrate the two? So how can we sort of bring the educational sphere together with the practical theory, or the practical sphere, and then be able to develop this challenge that we can then say, okay, developing a framework for ecosystem restoration, that we can take to organizations, that we can take to policymakers, and say that this is what we believe will help develop the capacities of young people, develop the capacities of all learners for ecosystem restoration, so that then they can go on themselves to be able to implement projects within ecosystem restoration. So maybe taking it a step back before what data we're sort of trying to look at in terms of actual ecosystem restoration, but what is the understanding that educators have currently for ecosystem restoration? So I hope that answers your question. I don't know if Arnaud wants to jump in, or Pramod or Bernard.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understood the question right, but were you asking specifically about what are the parameters or indicators that you would need to consider before starting a restoration project, and then how to monitor after a few years whether it's been successful or not? Was it in that direction, your question?
That's right. That's perfect.
All
I'd
right.
like to say, what is the initial data that you would require to be able to set up an eco-restoration project? Like, what do you do to soil? What do you do to water? What do you do to the plants that you have to bring in? How will you select those plants in a
Yes.
biogeographical way or whatever? And secondly, once you've got it, how do you know you got it right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very valid question, and I think it really depends on the type of ecosystem you are trying to restore, because the data might differ from ecosystem to ecosystem. But in general, I think a good way to start probably is getting a good understanding on what are the causes of the degradation of your ecosystem. So looking at what factors have been promoting that degradation, whether it's pollution, whether it's land use, misuse of the ecosystem. over exploitation of some type of resources. So I would say looking at those parameters and trying to understand what it's driving this degradation of the ecosystem, that might be the first step. And after that, I guess also trying to identify which is the state, the ideal state of the ecosystem that that we should achieve in order for all the functions to be restored. So I think, and of course that will be very different depending on which ecosystem you are looking at. So I think once you you know and define these parameters, you then need to, I guess, establish an action plan on how can I get there? How can we slowly make sure the ecosystem returns to a previous state when it was not degraded? And yeah, as you said, it might take some time. It might take a couple of years, even longer. And I guess slowly monitoring with field experts, whether it's ecologists, whether it's biologists, people that can help you look for indicators that can showcase that the ecosystem is actually being recovered and the functions, the ecosystem benefits and services are being slowly restored. But it's very context specific. So I hope this answers the questions. And I'm pretty sure that with the Namami Gange example now, maybe you'll get to hear a little bit more how this can be done on the ground with a real example.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Am I still sharing my screen? Because for me now it's back to the, I'm not sure if the presentation is still up or not. Let me just reshare again. I'm not sure if there are any other questions, but if not, let's begin. Okay. Yeah, so over to you.
Arnav, can you start sharing the slides?
Are the slides not visible?
We can just see the cover slide.
Okay, yes, exactly. I'll start. Yes.
Yeah, you can start.
First, I would like to ask, what is ecosystem? Like ma'am well said in the starting, she is a sutradhar, connecting. Ecosystem, a place where different communities live in harmony and they are linked with each other. And by their life cycle, they are doing some activity that is apart from their food need or and they connect with each other. There may be different groups from plants to in the soil. There are microbes. They are having important role to play in soil. Same way, the plants are having their important role to play, and they provide then niche and shelter to the animals. That is varies from small to microbes to vertebrates, birds, in amphibians and other species, and they are connected with each other with and getting food, shelter, and space for their living beings. So anything will happen in the ecosystem, and there are different types. If it is a grassland and water, and in the water body ecosystem, they are having different strata. So we have to understand that if anything is any interlinkage will disturb, the whole ecosystem will get disturbed. And the Namami Gange, the program has been taken up in 2014. Earlier, it was under National Ganga River Basin Authority, and it is now completing. It's almost a decade period. And the program name given National Mission for Clean Ganga, which are having this is the Ganga is a mighty river. It covers around 23% of India's geographical area and 46% of our population. It nurtures that population. So Namami Gange is it's a symbol of spiritual, cultural, and religious well-being, and it provides space to different ecosystem, whether it's interlinked with the landscape or then forest and the flowing waters. And as far as we are aware, the river originates from around 7,000 meter altitude. That is from Gangotri Glacier, and the upper zone where it originate, that is the landscape having alpine zones, and then downward the first tree line start around where the Gangotri pilgrimage is there, and from that river crossing through that mountains, and it enters into the Gangetic the plains at Haridwar, where it crosses the main frontal thrust at Haridwar after it enters into the plains, and it has total course around 2,525 kilometers straight, and having various landscapes in the hilly area, that is upper basin zone, and then Gangetic plains, that is started down Haridwar till Calcutta in West Bengal. Finally, it merges with the at Ganga Sagar in Bay of Bengal. And having like in hilly area, then the plain lands, and then in the delta region, it forms a Sundarban delta, and the Namami Gange, and it serves. So it's a mammoth task which has been taken by the by our government of India as for its a holistic rejuvenation, which includes the first the pollution abatement, and then its conservation and the rejuvenation of river Ganges. So it's an integrated approach. And since last, how it helps us, the river provides water, that drinking water, supply, water irrigations, foods, and it and then biodiversity. It has importance from biodiversity perspectives. So.
Yes, you have to indicate me when to change slides, please, because otherwise I'm not sure I can.
So importance of the basins. So in the river basin, that's I have already mentioned that it nurtures 46% of our population. That is about 60 crore people. That through agriculture, through drinking water supplies, and through foods and all. So and next, and there are on the it also same times faces threats of over exploitation from pollutions, and from even cascade. Nowadays we are having that hydropower projects, that is also cascade projects in the river course, where we are facing the river continuum concept that for the so next please. Next. Similarly, so introduction to Namami Gange. To making the task for Ganga rejuvenation, so that the 5 pillars has been defined to take the Ganga rejuvenation programs, and that is based on Nirmal Ganga. That it should be unpolluted river. For that, infrastructure projects like in major cities, there are almost 97 cities are along the river banks. And among major cities, we are well known from Haridwar to Kanpur, Allahabad, Banaras, then Patna, then to Calcutta. So the major contribution, pollution source is the sewage wastewater. So first part that to first under Namami Gange scheme to stop the sediment load and pollution load in the river, so that the river can get some space for self-rejuvenation and growth of that aquatic biomass. So under the second part is related to Aviral Ganga, where the river continuum concept, the continuous flow is required for the river. If the water is flowing, that means that is a river, or stream. That is as per the so that that is required to support the living beings, not only in the water itself, but along the landscape, along the riverscape. So and that helps in recharging the groundwater aquifer also. So uninterrupted flow is the concept under the Aviral Ganga. So there are different projects has been taken up under for conservation of biodiversity, ecosystem restoration, and floodplain conservation of floodplain wetland. The third pillar is the Ganga. As we are aware that a river itself provides a good source of food through fishing activities, and then river floodplains for food and vegetables, and then other livelihood, the Jan Ganga. So we are having now Jan Ganga is our important part for how to mobilize and connect with the people. And fifth is the Gyan Ganga, by through which to associate with the different stakeholders, maybe college, universities, different institutes, IITs, and in that way, the Namami Gange has developed partnership with different organizations, whether at national level or international level. So far, there are total in last almost in a decade, 42 projects has been sanctioned under Namami Gange schemes, and the project that these the projects are from different sectors, whether it's setting up STP plants or even solid waste management, infrastructure projects. Then projects support research, study, and public relation and outreach, and biodiversity and wetland conservation. Next, please. So all last 9 years contribution that finally led this recognition that the Namami Gange mission is by the United Nations as one of the top 10 flagship program for ecosystem restoration, and the award was received by our Director General Shri G. Ashok Kumar Ji last year in Montreal, Canada. Yes, sir. Next, please. So, under Aviral Ganga, we are talking about unrestricted flow. So there are three concepts. Then one, that e-flow minimum requirement, whether in during lean season, that should be regularly maintained in the river, and that is looked after by the Central Water Commission under the Namami Ganges programs. And then biodiversity afforestation. So far, we have taken a holistic approach involving state forest departments, state wetland authorities, and other central institute like wildlife institutes, then CIFRI, that is ICR, CIFRI, and even for education. And we have our very first project with CEE, Center for Environment Education, that is about the education and awareness for Gangetic Dolphin River. That was done in the at the very early stage in 2014 to 17 by the CE, targeting the school children's and giving training to the teachers. So, therefore, we are the detailed DPR was prepared in 10-kilometer buffer zone along the river course by FRI for afforestation and protecting the buffers along the river. So, and we have so far taken 30,000 hectare land which has been planted through our schemes under Namami Gange for afforestation, forestry intervention. That all not only include plantation, but other measures for soil water conservation in that degraded lands, degraded ecosystem which are along the riverscape, situated along the riverscapes. Recently, we have now on the similar panel, I think everybody is familiar with the biodiversity, Delhi Biodiversity Park. The concept, and now we have sanctioned 6 biodiversity parks to conserve the endemic flora and fauna and floodplain wetlands, 6 biodiversity parks in the state, in Uttar Pradesh. And the same way we have sir was asking about the data and all. Earlier the data was some university has done some work, other university have some work. We were not having collected data, and we have now working with Wildlife Institute of India for biodiversity of the entire basins, for restoration, conservation, and planning for biodiversity in the entire basin. And for that, the Ganga Aqua Lab Center has been established in Dehradun. So on the same way to the threats lying with the endemic fisheries, and to improve the endemic fishery and biomass in the river basin, we had very good projects with the SIFRI, that is enhancements of fish stocks in river Ganga and improvement of livelihood for the fishers. So under that project, what we have done so far, we have raised 93 lakhs of fish fingerlings of Indian major carp. There are 3 species that, and that is the also important food for in the market also. That includes Indian major carp, the 3 groups, Sirhinus, Mirgala, then Katla is there, and Rohu is there. Most of them may be familiar with these names. And now under that ecosystem restoration schemes, we are talking about, if any linkage, we are having some migratory species. And in Bengal, we are having hilsa that migrate from the sea to fresh water. So we have raised 90,000 earlier, before construction of this commission of Farakha Barrage, that fish was able to migrate up to Allahabad. And after our efforts, now that is after ranching program, again it has seen in that zone. And the same way in the upper basin, we are having golden mahashir fisheries, and that also has been taken up with the city. And apart from this ranching program, that education part, whether with the Wildlife Institute or whether SIFRI or whether Forest Department, we are having outreach program that component as a major component, where around the next slide, please. Next. Basic, this is a profile of the biodiversity. So as for Namami Gange's efforts, so we are now these species, the unique species, for example, otters, turtles, gharials, and dolphins, they can be frequently sighted in the river basin after almost a decade efforts. So there are around 5 mammal species and water birds, and then amphibian. These are the profile of them. And for holistic conservation, and we have established a rescue and rehabilitation center for aquatic wildlife and aquatic animals at different places. And same way for education purpose, the interpretation centers about Ganga River Basin and its diversity, its ecosystem, its forest type. The interpretation center has been established at different places, like in Hardwar, Varanasi, and even in Barrackpur also. So, next, please. Next, please. So, under this program, Jan Ganga concept, strengthening people river connect. That is one is also part of this. Under the education outreach program, we have so far developed 3,500 Ganga prairies along the Ganges basin and 22,000 Ganga Doots. And these school children were trained at their elementary level about the how the plantation can be done, what is the importance of different species, plants, animals, and other, and why you have to keep the river banks clean and all. This is small trainings. These are given, provided to these all Ganga Prairie, Ganga Doots, and that Ganga Mitras, and same way, Namami Gange, also organize every year that Ganga Quest, where school children, last year that crossed around 1 million school children participated in that Ganga Quest. So through that Ganga Quest, they are children being motivated and being equipped by the elementary knowledge about the rivers and its importance. And we also celebrating every year that Nadi Utsav. And 2021 to people river connect, we have Ganga Mashal Yatra along the entire bank of river Ganges from Haridwar to Ganga Saga. We have conducted that Ganga Mashal Yatra with the theme to protect the biodiversity and keep the river banks clean, and how to throw those puja samgri and protecting the and rescuing the animals like the aquatic, whether turtles, whether they find some gharials and or even dolphins also. So they will immediately, Ganga Doot, they are now playing very important role. They immediately inform us, inform to the CIFRI, inform to the wildlife, inform to the forest departments. The immediately action has been taken. Sir. The recent, almost a month back, some fishermen, they accident, because they don't going for that catching of dolphin, but it's a accident, incidental. Sometimes they put the fishing gears in the river, and that fish, that dolphin get entangled in that, and they inform now that all that fishing community, fishermen, they have been trained to in such a way. And now again under the CIFRI program, the training is given to not to use zero mesh size net, not to catch small size fishes, and that they are also being educated to avoid the fishing banning period during monsoons, and that all these things are helping us in rejuvenation of the river banks. And that is now reflected in sighting of species, that is reflected in growth of that river biomass. And next, please. Next, please. So now these are activities through public outreach. There a program we organize yoga at Ghat, so that they should have the sense of the rivers and the importance of that river also, and the well-being of. Next, please. Next, please. And these are for public outreach program. So we are having even mass media programs. We have a comic magazine to target our small turtles, children in the at school levels. That comic, that Ganga Ki Baat Chacha Chaudhary ke saath. We are having that both in a video format also, and we are having comic in book format also. We have published that one out. So next, please. So apart from that, under outreach program for education and monitoring also along the bank, the Ganga Task Force that has been established in 2016-17 under Namami Gange Mission and the Ministry of Defense. So now this task force is having has been deputed in Allahabad.
I will brief about this Ganga Task Force. Actually, Ganga Task Force was established by Namami Gange during the 2016 with the aim to protect the river. To protect the river from all these activities for protection and conservation of this Ganga in Uttar Pradesh. So we have deployed it one company each in Kanpur, Allahabad and Varanasi. So they are one battalion, headquarter in Prayagraj. So they are doing these activities like plantation, tree plantation, management of public awareness, patrolling sensitive areas, for this biodiversity protection, patrolling of ghats, monitoring of river pollution, and assist during flood and natural calamity. That is their duty. So what they do, they patrol this river through boat and sea. These poachers, they illegal poachers. What they do, they carry this gharial and for tortoise. So they catch them and hand over to this local authorities. So now that area is very much aware that some military people are there and watching us. So now it's very protected. Even people who go to Ghat for puja and whatever they throw it, so they always go and guide them. No, don't throw this side. There is a dustbin. Go and put it. So they are creating very much this community awareness program over there. So for their this worthy military also all very respect them and follow their instructions. So this is now they have also doing plantation, mainly this vetiver plantation for protection of ghats, like for soil erosion. They protect it from soil erosion, vetiver grass slip, and public awareness program. That Masal Yatra they have carried taken for the public awareness program. This is a part of the public awareness program, and which was conducted during Ganga Utsav in 2021 from Uttarakhand to West Bengal. It was a very good program. So now go to Karan. Next slide.
Actually, I'll I want to brief about the previous slide, a little brief. That vetiver is a very good soil binder, sir. We are having around issues related to erosions along the rivers, and this GTF is playing a good role and planting this vetiver as a soil binder and moving the community along with them also. And, next, please. And I was part of that Ganga Mashal Yatra from Prakha to Ganga Sagar, where we have interacted with the local people and the involvement of the Nehru Yuva Kendra, school children, and the local communities all along from Prakha to Nadia, Mayapur, Calcutta, and we have gone along that Mashal Yatra and interacted with the people. And ma'am, you will be surprised in Bengal, the kids are so well aware and about those values, and they have next please. So involvement of community is also, we have already discussed that Ganga prairies, and they are playing important role. Next, please. Like next, please. Participation we have already. Next, please. So importance of ecosystem restoration, that ecosystem plays important role, and our efforts are now leading for reverse biodiversity loss. So next, please. So keeping in mind educating restoration, Namami Gange recently has signed MOU with 49 universities about restoration programs with the concept of having multi-discipline experts with multi-stakeholders. Next, please. So we are having international park with different countries. Next, please. I already discussed that we are having at our national for ecosystem restoration partners, CE, Wildlife Institute, Central Inland Fisheries, State Forest, and World Wild Fund. Next, please. We have already discussed education and awareness as part one of the main component of Namami Gange programs, which has we are having the club model also. We are having awareness that Kartavya Ganga campaigns, then public outreach for like television and commercial series about. Next, please. Community engagement with the next, please. So under ecosystem restoration program, we are having different projects which we have already discussed about biodiversity conservation with the Wildlife Institute, CIFRI, and educating schools and community with CE, and the setting of biodiversity parks, conserving and managing flood wetlands, involving the communities and creating that Ganga Prairies, Dolphin Mitra, Wetland Mitras, and next, please. So in the very beginning, we are having this exclusive project with CE about Ganga River Dolphin Conservation of Education. Under that project, around 20 school clusters, 30 to 30, each cluster with 30 to 35 schools, and 10 each in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh were taken, and where the dolphin schools were identified, and they were given training about the conservation of dolphin and native species, about values about the biodiversity and all, and around 700 plus teachers were also trained under this project by CE. Next. Sustainability of conservation. Community involvement is a important component, as we have discussed. Next, please. This is a 684 awareness campaign we have conducted along with the River Ganga with CIFRI. And next, please. So, by keeping in mind the to create a cadre of ecologists, biologists, and experts. Recently, we have launched with the WI at Ganga Aqua Lab Center the master's course, ma'am. The course is about freshwater ecology and conservation. So right now, and apart from with aiming for capacity building, interdisciplinary approach, advanced tools and techniques, global perspective, and policy alignment with these objectives, the course has been launched at Aqua Lab in WIA. And we are also having, we are providing the internship for different disciplines of Namami Gange programs. Next. Thanks. And next, please, some snapshots. Next, please. This is our Aqua Lab Center for Master's course. Recently, our DG has we have sanctioned this at Dehradun. Next, please. This snapshot of our activity for ranching, then that's a turtle rehabilitation center, then wetland is, we are in the one is at that biodiversity park in Narora, Bulandshahr. Next. Next. So during like our that Ganga Mashal Yatra, Nadi Utsavs, we have also conducted nature walk, and then these are our some plantation side with the State Forest Department. And next, please. So snapshots of various activity where involvement of and participation of community students from school levels to college and academicians and such. Next, thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure all of you must be very inspired, right? And what a difficult task. And I think so, what really stands out for me is that they have a master's program. because this rich experience and this learning has now been, put into a course, and I mean, it's not going to get lost. So I think so that's phenomenal, what has been done. So I'll just open up for maybe 2 questions, because I think so you all want to ask them for so many hands. And then we have a small Mentimeter. Okay, fine. Yeah. You get preference, Dr. Barajan.
Why would I get preference?
Because you're a stalwart.
It's been great, sir. I think we have come a long, long way from what happening. And that's because of this multidisciplinary approach you have come. I have a problem. I live with domain connected practices, on the edge of connected practices. And that has never been a perennial river. Because it came to all the trickle and then it would become a torrent. How do we restore places like that? If we want having dams, if we don't having river, if we redo it as a project for a natural ecosystem. So that is going to be a much bigger problem than doing power river. And I think we need to get into some sort of development ideas of how to do this to be non-perennial. I think it's time we look at.
Sir, we are also having a small stream rejuvenation and seasonal river rejuvenation program, sir. Under that, at the different districts along the river Ganga basin, different streams has been identified and mapped. And the work is now also being taken for restoration of those small streams, sir. That is also there, sir.
All are in this Ganga basin. Actually, we are working in Ganga, so that's it. So all Gangas. Yeah, correct. So we'll take, sir.
Like there are some activity underway, like in Hindon River, and then in nearby, then East Kali River. That is originate in. So as far as like other states under this program, so far the main focus is on Namami Ganges River, sir. So however, this model is also now being applied on the other river basins also. And MOEF has already prepared major DPRs for 13 rivers, apart from this Ganga River Basin DPR, sir. So
I was not aware that how much work is being done by government. So our knowledge is also been improved. I want to know, you are talking about vetiver. Vetiver was being planted at the river basins and at biodiversity.
Only erosion prone areas.
Erosion.
Along the river banks.
Yes, sir.
To stabilize those banks and all.
So there are some aquatic plants also which can absorb toxic material and pollution in the water. So I want to know whether these plants like Azolla is being incorporated in the DPR or not.
That is there, ma'am. That is there.
We have already incorporated, madam. It is in that we do in this constructed wetland. We usually do in some nalas which are flowing to river. Before entering to river, we try to treat this. If we have not tapped for STP treatment, so those nalas we use for this constructed wetland.
You will be surprised that GTF, they are using floating beds.
Floating beds.
Yes, at some places, because they are monitoring pollution also. And I just not, I'll let you know later that name of those small plants which they are also using. And they have planted in the floating beds and then absorption of those.
Azolla might be.
Yes.
Azolla is there. And there is one more plant which can clean water with thermally.
Yes.
So they might be in your system.
We are using that technique also.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Sir, I'm Arularam from University. And very nice presentation. I was told that in river like Brahmaputra, after almost extinct. In certain species which are going extinct, the native species can bring it back. Have you taken any effort in that direction?
So in India, we are having 3 dolphin species. One that is in river Ganga river dolphin, that is the same in the Brahmaputra river. One we are having Bulan, that is in Indus river basin. That is, there are very small family that 7 or 10 numbers that appear in river Byas. Because there is a Harike wetland that downstream, that is the barrier and the small population. And one is in the brackish water along that Sundarbans and all. Please. And as for Brahmaputra river basin, so that is having different threats as compared to in this Ganges river basin. The river suddenly, like Ganges is a longest river in India. Brahmaputra is the widest river. That is facing many threats from not only the poaching and from the indigenous, but during monsoon, the river, one is not able to see the other bank, maybe sometimes 10 or 12 kilometer wide, suddenly. So the local threats are now under this, in 2020, Prime Minister himself announced at the Red Fort Dais about Project Dolphin. And now for protection, conservation and protection of dolphin, national Project Dolphin has been, a framework has been prepared, sir. And that is under MOEF. Whereas Namami Gange's activity concerned, dolphin is one part, sir. And due to that enhancement in prey base, dolphin, turtles, and other associated species like Gadhyal, they were about to extinct. Now they are also being cited frequently.
Actually, these
Yes, sir.
species are the good indicator of freshwater. Means our river is getting clean. So if they are appearing, coming back, it means our river is getting clean. Also, regarding dolphin conservation, we are focusing on Ganga basin, but this MOFCC, they have already prepared.
And we are
terms.
having very
So-
good expert with us from Dolphin, Dr. Sandeep Behra. He has worked with this and he is also a member of that Dolphin committee. So we are also looking that part also.
I'm with Earth Day Network. I'm Neela Majumdar, Director Education and Outreach, and we have partnered with you all. We did wonderful programs with school children, with dolphins in Varanasi and in the Sundarbans, where children went out on a cyclothon. Our theme for next year is Planet versus Plastics. What are the steps in place to reduce plastic polluting the river Ganga, and how can we help you out?
Actually, madam, for plastic, I think Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, this other department is taking a step for plastic pollution, reduction of plastic pollution. Right now, we are not doing anything, but we are taking solid waste to this, solid waste management to this. But it is limited to this ghat and within city. For especially plastic, we are not doing anything. For this, Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation is doing for plastic waste.
So yesterday, Mr. Anil Prakash Joshi from the Himalayas made a statement, and I think a lot of people must have realized what he said, that we should not be speaking about development, we should be speaking about prosperity. And going back to the Indian knowledge system and all, I think this project, what you've done and the work you've done is a wonderful example of prosperity and going back to our roots. Thank you so much for this, what you have given to us. This is a wonderful restoration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's so well said. Okay. Thank you for this. I think this conversation can continue. We'll just move on to the Mentimeter. I request all of you to scan the QR code or just go to www.menti.com. It's 32570 when it asks you for the code. Okay, so okay, everybody's already answered. Okay. Can we have everyone answer? Okay. आप www.menti.com पे भी जा सकते हैं. What was the code? Okay, so do you know about the UN decade? So 6 said yes, no, vaguely. All right. Thank you. Next question. What is your occupation? So if you can type in your occupation so we know who all are sitting here in one word. So we have lots of educators, some specific to climate, some research, working from the nonprofit sector, consultants, nonprofit again, students, research. Great. Can we have the next question? Which type of resource would be most valuable if you were to incorporate ecosystem restoration education into your work? The first one is lesson plans. The second one is a compilation of good practices. Third is online course. Then webinars, practical training sessions, and a challenge, an international challenge for schools. And you can choose multiple if you want to. Okay. We're still seeing changes. A compilation of good practices, training, webinars, online course, an international challenge, and lesson plans. Can we have the next question? Any other resource you would find useful to be able to teach ecosystem restoration education? Anything that comes to your mind? It'll be great if you can share. We have access to experts, community engagement tools, field visits, exposure visits, inclusion of ecosystem restoration curriculum, more awareness in rural areas. Okay, that's really useful. And I think so we have a visit to, a Namami Gange kind of a project. I think so it's going to be life-changing for students and adults. Yeah, so that would be really, I think exposure visits are really important. And they bring so much of hope and positivity, right? We've done with hearing so much of doom. So yeah, how do you look at solutions? Okay. Thank you. I think that's the end, right, Arnav? Okay, we have one last. How would you rank your understanding, knowledge about ecosystem restoration education? So there's a scale of 1:5. And Arnav, 1 is the lowest, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, 1 is the lowest and 5 is the highest.
Okay. Yeah, Harcharan ji would have got 5. आपको भी 5 मिलते हैं. हम सब 2, 3 पे बैठे हैं. Okay. So we all need more education for sure.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Thank you all for participating and yeah, letting us know. This is very useful for us. Like with the education challenge, I think collecting this information and getting to know from you, it's very valuable. And there is one last question, Radhika. I believe. Let me just. Yeah, which is if they have been involved, or do they know someone that has been involved in ecosystem restoration projects? Because for those that answer yes, we have a follow-up survey that you could take, and which would help us a lot to map out existing resources, projects on ecosystem restoration that are happening globally. So for those who say yes, which for now it's 2 persons, we would really appreciate if you could take some time to fill out a survey, which I'm gonna be showing a QR code in a second. So if you have been involved or do you know someone involved in a restoration project, please take some time to fill out this collaboration and mapping survey. And yeah, it will be great if you could even share it with others that might not be here today present. I can share a link maybe with you, Radhika, later in case that can be facilitated to the, yeah.
Okay. All right, that brings us to the end of the session. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned a lot about it. When I was told to just, be the Sutradhar, I found it so interesting, and that's why I said yes, more than anything else. I think so. I'm a real fan of solutions and action. I think so that's what drew me to this and to meet the Namami Gange team. I think it's an absolute inspiration. So a very, very big thank you to you, Gurcharanji and Sunilji, and Arnav and Ocean, who have been patiently sitting there. So thank you so much, everybody. We have a little token of appreciation for both of them. So can we give them?
Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a lovely day.